Well, I am super excited, and Corey broke the ice, so I'm pretty excited about what he's done. We make about 35,000 choices a day, they say on the average. Every human does. Those choices often have options, things we can choose to, as we just heard earlier, move forward in a direction. This is really where my story starts. It starts in a place of not having an option, so I thought. My wife and I, our four daughters, moved here to Green Bay almost 20 years ago. But as we were attending Green Bay Community Church, I had been in ministry most of my life, leading on church staffs. But I'd never led a church on my own. What I mean by that is the lead position. And so as I was attending community church, I had the opportunity to throw my name in the hat to be the next lead pastor. Well, I'm a 3 in the Enneagram, and I love to just earn the job and perform and do everything perfectly and get it. And I remember them asking me, and I said, I just don't think I'm a fit. And so I said no. It didn't take long, though, for my wife and I, and our faith informs kind of our journey, to all of a sudden think, wow, maybe this is an opportunity I need to take. And so I said, yes, I'll throw my hat in the ring. Again, it took a few more weeks, but what I found out from the team that was searching for their new head pastor, they said no. I just have to say, sometimes in life, you're excited about something and you've performed and you've earned these roles. I hadn't heard many no's in my life, and it was unbelievably humiliating. Now, it wasn't announced that I got a no, but I was struggling. It was at that point I felt like, gosh, I don't have any options. What am I going to do? I didn't have a job. I was doing some things here and there, and I thought, now what? This is really where mine isn't a pivot point, but a point at which I had to make a new decision, a decision that's always there for us when we feel what we call stuck, and that is to wait. It seems like a paradox. Waiting isn't moving us forward, but sometimes waiting is the thing that creates resilience. It allows us to trust an unfolding divine process that maybe I'm right where I'm supposed to be. This is exactly what happened to me, and for this season, I would call it not a pivot point, but a pivot chapter. And in that time, I had many weeks to reflect on who am I, and what will I do next, and what do I need to put my skills toward. There are 4 basic lessons I learned in this waiting period. It's about 8 to 10 weeks. The first one was, we learn most from adversity. If you were to survey your growth, you would all agree your best lessons in life have come from the hardest situations in your life. I learned this firsthand in the Marine Corps, 6 years. I will tell you, boot camp is no 4-star resort and isn't comfy. It's not about convenience. It's about making, as we just heard, disrupting your life in such a way that creates resilience. I realized that I have grown most in my life because of my story. I grew up in Los Angeles. I had parents that divorced, but before that, we moved a lot. I would literally sometimes get woke up in the middle of the night that we're moving, and I would change schools as an elementary kid during the middle of the year. And if you can imagine going back to that time where all of a sudden you showed up to a new school, figuring out who are the bullies, who are the good people, who do I need to begin to connect with? And I realized that in those tough times, what it gave me is the ability to be resilient, flexible, adaptive. That was the first lesson. The second lesson I learned, and I started to reflect during this time of waiting in my, what I call pivot chapter, would be that authenticity extends beyond Sunday. Let me explain. I grew up in a family, again, that we would go to church on Sunday, but it would be left at the door once Monday through Saturday. There was no connection to a faith life and what we'd call real life, Monday through Saturday. Well, as I grew up as a kid, I was really disturbed by this and wanted one or the other. I'd rather leave my faith aside and not do this Sunday thing and just live life as I want to, or faith has to matter for me. And what I couldn't find are people that were actually living that out Monday through Saturday. It was as if they had this severance of faith and actually work life. And so I began to process that in my own life. If I were to ever lead anywhere, My faith has to matter beyond Sunday. Brene Brown talks about authenticity as being a way to show up to who you really are, even when someone's not looking at you. And I wanted to be able to do that. My third lesson was that we're always better together. This is hard for a 3 in the Enneagram, someone who likes to perform and get the accolades like, look what I did. But it doesn't take us long to realize the more you live out that process, you get pretty lonely, don't you? You start to find that, wow, other people not only matter, but make me better. And I'm not so lonely. And so I realize whatever I'm going to do next, I need to make sure that I'm doing that in community, in a group and a culture of people that care and matter. My last lesson, maybe the most profound for me, was really a Bible passage in Jeremiah 29. And it's to learn to lead wherever you're at. Learn to lead with whatever you have in front of you. Too many times in our culture, we extend out and say, I want to be a visionary, and one day we're going to be this. And we so focus on the great, we lose the good in front of us. Most great organizations have never put that much energy in the future. They put the energy in the now. In Jeremiah 29, the Israelites get taken captive by Babylon. It's like their nemesis. It's the most evil nation of the time. And Jeremiah is a prophet of God, and he speaks for God. And so the Israelites are in captivity, and they're complaining to God. So Jeremiah speaks for him and says, I'll paraphrase, God says basically, be quiet. I put you there. Sometimes I don't think we realize that we've been placed exactly where we're supposed to be. He says, be quiet, I put you there, build homes, marry off your sons and daughters. And then he says, pray for the prosperity of the city, because if it prospers, you will too. Think about that. They're being told to pray for their enemies' success. What it did for me is to say, whatever I'm going to do, I want to do it wherever I've been placed. No matter who's in leadership or not, I'm going to pray and work towards their flourishing and prosperity. Well, about 8 weeks went by, and I got a phone call, the surprise phone call. Hey, we've reconsidered. Will you take Green Bay Community Church? 14 years ago, I got to start that day, and one of the first questions we asked was, if we were to close our doors tomorrow, who in the city cares? And we started to do an asset-based kind of research on what's out there and what's needed in our city, and we started Together Green Bay. Together Green Bay, now we're an organization that is collaborative. We care about other people. We want to work with people. We are authentic. We're going to live out our faith in all different aspects and sectors of the city. We are resilient. COVID affected us, but it didn't shut us down. And last and not least, we want to take initiative. And so what has that meant for us at Together Green Bay? Because again, that chapter served for me a chance to begin to lead and form some of those key values. One of the first things we did is we built $1 million pantry for the school district in our region on our campus. We give it to them for $1 a year. We don't do anything, but we are a part of our city because we wanted to be more than just a Sunday event. We then gave some plot of gardening area for the Brown County Community Gardens. We know that there are people in need to grow food for both the farmers markets and just their own home, and we did that. We started to address poverty, and so we became the first chapter in Wisconsin for Circles USA to go after generational poverty that's in our area and region. We started to do so many things, from Feed My Starving Children, which packs about nearly 1 million meals a year or for that week for kids that are starving all over the world. And it's about 3,000 volunteers. There's about 12 churches involved in that. We hold really probably the largest, at least in this region, leadership development conference, the Global Leadership Summit. But we started to do all these things and we realized we can't do it all. We need to somehow figure out how to begin to collaborate and motivate other leaders in every sector of our city, from education, from business, faith leaders, nonprofit leaders, wherever they might be. We wanted to do that. We started a leadership development and trying to grow leaders to get better, because we knew if we could help their prosperity, we will prosper too. I love what I get to do. I have the chance to be a part of an amazing team, some of who are here today. And what a gift to be able to use the chapter, that waiting chapter, that pause, that allowed me to reform some of my own values from my own story. I'd encourage you to do the same. Thank you.